Well, good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, whatever time this film is going to be shown. I sincerely regret that I cannot be present at this gathering. For these conferences, common bound conferences, have always been highlights of the year for me. Last year, and maybe also the year before, the title was Engaging the Other, and that carries a point that is sufficiently important enough to scroll that title up for a moment and talk about that word engaging. To engage someone involves more than simply greeting him or her. When we greet a passerby, we smile and go on our way, but engagements are involving and open-ended. We pause, we linger, and share with each other, which, by the way, is exactly what you will be doing at this conference. Once again, it's my loss that though I can engage you through this film presence, I cannot be present for you to engage me in responding to what I have to say. Well, such are the vagaries of life, and so let me proceed now on fanaticism and the way it blocks the spiritual path. Now, the dictionary definition of a fanatic is and I quote, a person who is filled with excessive and erroneous enthusiasm. But I like to collapse this more colloquially and say that a fanatic is a person who redoubles his energy after he's lost his aim. That's not a bad working definition of fanaticism. But in any case, the most obvious and vicious fanaticism in the world today is Islamic. We need only to think of the collapse of the Twin Towers and the Taliban. And so, on this theme of fanaticism, instead of scanning the world for instances of fanaticism today, we could run out the clock doing that. Instead of doing that, I propose to focus on a single instance of fanaticism and to think with you about that example in depth. Now, in the latter part of the 20th century, a professor at Oxford University named Norman Daniel, a professor who devoted his career to studying Islamic history. And in 1960, he poured his findings into a book which he titled Islam and the West, the Making of an Image. Then he unpacks that title, indicating what we well know, that for 1400 years, Islam and Europe were neighbors and shared common boundaries. Now, in principle, common boundaries give both parties the opportunity to understand and share with each other. But in fact, the cookie crumbles in a different way. For common boundaries can give rise to raids, counter-raids, skirmishes, and escalate into all-out wars. Norman Daniel, in his book, The Making of an Image, devotes his book to how century by century the image of Islam, century by century, the Western image of Islam was fixed into place. To cite but a simple example, since Christianity is Trinitarian, that's what religions are, trinities. And so, what is Islam's Trinity? Well, Allah, or God, the Quran, a book, but now they lacked one. What was the third person of the Trinity? And they came up with the answer. The devil. So this was the image of Islam. A book, a prophet, and the devil. Now, I don't have to tell this audience how far all this is from the how far it is from the truth. Let's begin with Islam's name. Christianity is named after a person, Christ. And Judaism is named after a people, the Jews. But Islam derives its name from a religious stance. Literally, the word Islam means submission, and by extrapolation, submission to the will of Allah. It is as though the key religious phraseology, Christianity involved love of God and love of nature. Well, that first point love of God is implied in the very word Islam, submission, and by implication, thy will be done. Right there in the name. And then we can move on to salutation. The typical or the standard in Europe, America, the greeting, the salutation is a handshake. In Islam, the greeting is Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be upon you. And then the other party responds, alaikum wa salam, and upon you also. This is worth noting. Salutations. I've just given assalamu alaikum, alaikum wa salam. In Hinduism, with palms together, namaste. Namaste means, bringing the other and oneself together. Namaste, the God that is within me bows to the God that is within you. Now, what's our salutation? Hi there! How's it going? Well, I think there is a moral in this. Before I go on to the second theme, still on Islam, it will be useful to mention the word jihad, which literally means holy war. And it's obvious how that lends itself to militant, fanatic Muslims. We are commanded to engage in jihad, a holy war, which is to say God's war against people, the enemy. Now, what is overlooked is the prophets spelling out of the meaning of holy war, jihad. When Islam came on the historical scene for about 10 years, it was in danger of being wiped off the map because in Mecca, when the Muslim groups were taking shape, why? Muslim groups were taking shape, why the leaders wanted to wipe them off the face of the earth, because Mecca was a pilgrimage spot for all the gods. Actually 365, one for every day of the year. And this new group was undermining the finances of those in charge. So they plotted to Muhammad by that time had about 30 followers. They're going to slay them all one night. But wind got to the Muslims, and at 2 in the morning they fled on camel towards 200 miles Medina north. And when the Meccans woke up to find that they were gone, there ensued a cop and robbers chase all the way to up to Mecca, but Muhammad and his group got there first. For 10 years there were skirmishes back and forth, and in one of these skirmishes, why the Muslims prevail. And as they were going home, Muhammad said, we have prevailed in the lesser jihad. That means the lesser holy war, the Meccans, to face the greater jihad, the greater holy war, which is the war against evil in our own hearts. And he did not even exempt himself from having to struggle with those. The very word religion, etymologically derives from religio, rebinding. Re is re again, and legio comes out of the same root as the word for ligament that binds our parts of our bodies together. And so right in the very name of religion there is this bonding or bringing back together, rebinding us with the infinite divine, rebinding us with our fellow human beings, and rebinding us with ourselves, because as we well know, our name is Legion. There are many parts of ourselves, and we have to work to bring those various parts into harmony. Well, with that unity, and by implication peace, right in the very word religion, how does it happen that religions so often lead into conflict? The examples are legion. Inquisitions, 30 years wars, and the list has no end. Why does that word with noble, solid, golden, central meaning deteriorate and splay out into opposition, hatred, and war? Well, I think the answer is probably multiple, but the central one is that religion gets hijacked by politics. All through history, you know, nations in conflict, in war, they want to win. And to win, they need the greatest power they can muster, and that greatest power is God. And therefore, they invoke God. God is on our side. Who can prevail against us? The problem is, it works both ways. Both sides think the same thing. And so they invoke their religion or their aspect of religion that they're champion, and thereby all manner of sorrow follows. I move on to the last one. Next steps for a new beginning. Wonderful. Practical measures for healing stereotypes that divide. So important, a good climax of every moving on from everything that's before. And the answer is easy. First of all, to make sure that one is has an accurate perception of the other party at its best. And that means reading their scriptures, searching out the noblest examples, people, and then pilgrimaging and talking with them about the issue that we're trying to negotiate and move into peaceful solution. And the key item here is listening. Listening. Before one barges in to pontificate one's own views, why, move in with questions. Ask them, do I have it right in thinking that this is your belief on this subject? Well, thank you for your kind attention. Envy is not a great virtue, but I will admit that I'm envious of you, all of you who are there able to participate not only in the formal programs, but in engaging one another. Because, as we all know, we learn as much from one another in attending conferences as we learn from the speakers. So I will swallow my envy and just say that I hope and trust and am sure that you are going to have a wonderfully productive, profitable meaningful conference.